Hello, and good morning, and welcome to this week's Marketing, Branding, and Getting the Sales show. And today I am joined with a special guest, Amanda, as well as our usual panelist, Stephen. And Jess won't be joining us this week, but she will be back here next week. So let's get started. Today's topic is about don't be a best kept secret. So before we dive into that, let's quickly do some introductions in case you have not met us before. Amanda, let's start with you, please.
Hello, hi. Thanks for having me on, Una. Well, I'm obviously Amanda Jackson, and at Tigerfish, we create impactful, results-driven PR campaigns for ambitious but time-poor PR, but B2B businesses, basically, particularly manufacturers, logistics, and freight tech companies, but B2B generally.
Fabulous. Thanks, Amanda. Stephen, over to you. Oh, Stephen, we're not hearing you. While you're fiddling around with your settings, I will introduce myself. My name is Una Doyle. I'm a business strategist and coach, and I can help any established business to uncover at least 50K in only 50 minutes. If you want to know how, send me a DM, comment below, and I'll be happy to send you a video that shows you exactly how I do that. I just heard something, so let's see. Stephen, can we hear you now?
Can you hear me?
Yay! Yes, we can.
Sorry about that, technical difficulties. Morning, Amanda. Morning, Una. My name is Stephen Lerman from Chameleon BDS, an outsourced business development service. So I help people that don't like to, don't want to, or don't have the resources to make those outbound telephone calls to create new appointments. That is what I do.
Fabulous. So, Amanda, let's just get started with a little bit about, well, what do we mean by PR? You know, just for anyone who may probably vaguely know what they mean. It's something to do with the media. So would you like to just explain, what is it and what does it look like today?
It's a good starting point. Absolutely. Well, PR is all about reputation. It's the result of what you do, what you say, but most importantly, what other people say about you. And so I come across loads of people who say, I'm sure they all say they're Lancashire's best kept secret. Like that's something to boast about. And it so isn't. Because let's face it, if people don't know about you, then they can't buy from you. That's the bottom line. So it's about reputation. It's about understanding and trust and influencing the opinion of others, and it's how you behave. It's that goodwill between a company and its audiences. Really, that's how it's phrased. Super important. I mean, I think we all do PR in a way for our companies, just the way we behave, but it's what other people say about you as well that's so important.
Right. And I know, so you may not know this, viewers. I actually used to do PR. So this is going back to my marketing agency days. And so I spent 7 years doing public relations. And typically, like the cobbler's daughter having no shoes, I've been very poor at doing my own PR recently. I used to be a lot better at doing it. And it's something I'm actually planning to bring back this year. So watch this space. But yeah, I think it's really interesting because I think it is important that people have got appropriate expectations as to what PR is going to do for them as well. So like and you may disagree with this, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, Amanda, but for me, I think PR is, for the most part, is marketing. It's not lead generation. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, it is it falls underneath that marketing umbrella. So when we talk about marketing, for those people that will know all about marketing, and I know you do as well, Una, it's about those 5 Ps, isn't it? It's about, your product, the place, the promotion, the people, and the price. And PR falls within the promotion part of that marketing umbrella. So I think that if you went into PR thinking, oh, this is going to bring me all the leads I would ever need, next week, you would be overly optimistic, I think. What it is, it's the long game. And what you're doing is you're building a brand, you're building a reputation, because people don't want to buy from somebody who hasn't got credibility, somebody that they don't trust. But it's, we only have to think about the companies that we know and love and see that actually they've got some great reputation and credibility, haven't they? That's what we're all looking for with our business.
Amanda, I've got a quick question. Sorry, you talk about visibility. Does the person that represents the brand have to be visible, or can they be behind the scenes? I mean, like if they're camera shy, or if they don't feel they would, it would benefit the product or service that they offer with the increased PR. Do they, or people just don't like being in front of the camera, like being completely visible? Can you still have that visibility, or how would you go about doing that visibility without physically being the face of the organization or the product? Does that make sense?
A perfect sense. I mean, lots of people that I work with, don't like being in front of the camera. I think PR for introverts is probably a whole different area. But I think one of the things that people like to work with a company that has some degree of personality. So that might not be you. It might not. But it's the right person to have that, to be the spokesperson. I think, when people, you see it on LinkedIn, don't you, where people go as their company name and say, connect to me. Well, I don't want to connect to a company. How can I have a conversation with a company? I want to have a conversation with the person. And not everyone is an extrovert, are they? In fact, you could argue that, you want somebody who is that trustworthy one that gets the job done. So no, I don't think you need to be that all singing, all dancing person. But I think there does need to be some personality behind a company, ideally.
Thanks, Amanda.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm sure, not everyone likes being in front of the camera, do they?
Not like me.
Well, I mean, I went into PR because actually I love pushing other people into the limelight, but kind of not so great about it myself. It's each to their own.
Absolutely. We all need to be structuring our businesses to be in the flow, so we get to be our best and enjoy ourselves and do the best work as well. So I totally agree with that. A great question, Stephen. And I think there are a lot of aspects of PR that can be done behind the scenes, because there's a lot of stuff that can be in writing. You don't have to be on camera. You don't have to be on audio even. Of course, radio and TV are part of that. And, it's, I think one of the other things is, like, we can now create our own media channels. Like, so I have a podcast. So I've created my own media channel in that as well. I do think that there is something special about getting that third-party endorsement, which is what we were always looking to get back in my PR days, where you have somebody else. It's like what you said, Amanda, is what somebody else says about you. So whether that's a journalist or whether you've written something and submitted it, and then that's published in an article, there's usually some journalist or editor behind that as well, isn't there? But it gives you that stronger third-party endorsement, doesn't it?
It makes it so much more believable, doesn't it? Because I mean, we can say what we like about ourselves.
Exactly.
But it's the trick is actually persuading somebody else to say something, and they might not always believe that.
Indeed.
It's like the court of public opinion, isn't it? I mean, as much as we believe that we've got the best product, service, or solution, you need that credibility from somebody else that's tried it, tested it, and they can throw their endorsement or credibility behind it to add credibility to what you're offering.
Yeah, very, very much so. And we've all seen examples, haven't we, of people who do say that they're great, or companies that say they're great, and actually the reality is that they absolutely are not. And you can buy space, can't you? And you can say whatever you like. You can hire a plane and have it blazoned all over the sky about how great you are. But are you really going to believe that? I mean, it's better to have somebody else say it about you. And that's why people have reviews, isn't it, on Trustpilot or on on restaurant reviews or on eBay or wherever. I mean, even if something is the biggest bargain in the world, if it's only got 1 star, well, I don't want it. And I think that's what we all look at those reviews. So they're from complete strangers. But if a complete stranger has given it a 5-star review, I don't know them, but I'm actually more prepared to believe it than the company themselves saying, "Oh, look, we're absolutely the best thing ever." And so if I know those people, or if I know that sector, and I respect the people that are giving it that great review, then that's so much better as well, isn't it?
Absolutely.
A
So
quick.
Go on, Stephen.
No, fine. So talking about reviews, very quickly, do you read the negative reviews as well to get that balance, or do you just read the positive reviews if we're talking about?
Always
Of course, I read the negative reviews. We all do, don't we? But I think on the thing about reviews. So I'm no expert really on reviews, but I think basically it has to be either brilliant or absolutely rubbish to actually get over that hurdle of the hassle of actually writing it. And so there are people at either end of that spectrum, aren't there? And I think you have to take the ball with a bit of a pinch of salt. But certainly, if it's got a whole load of great reviews, I mean, you're going to be looking at trends there, aren't you? If there's one rubbish one and 80 fabulous ones, well, it was probably just an off day.
I think it's important to look at the content of the negative reviews. Sometimes they have nothing to do with the product or service, but they might be about the delivery, or you can tell that whoever has written it maybe might not be the brightest spark. So it's kind of like, well, why are you expecting this from this product or service? That doesn't make sense. So I think it is important to read those for that reason. So yeah, I would.
But I mean, I think people refer to those reviews as well when they're looking to change jobs or stay in a job as well, don't they? Because we all like to hear great things about the company that we work for, and so PR absolutely comes into its own in all sorts of different ways.
Yeah.
Like
checking out every single. He's applying. He's looking to change his career at the moment, and he's doing a lot of his applications through Glassdoor, which is the employer review website. And so I was kind of like, oh wow, okay, that's interesting. I knew he was checking them out because I told him about it. I said, oh, go check out companies on Glassdoor, and it's interesting. So he's going and he's checking out what are employees saying about these companies, and when there's trends, as you said, as opposed to just one, negative one that you think, maybe they weren't that great and they got fired, and they're a bit, upset about it. But when there's a trend of people all saying, oh, this company is really disorganized, this company is bad leadership, or whatever it might be. So yeah, and it's an important point actually, is that your reputation is not just for your clients, it is for your staff. And of course, if you don't have a great reputation, you find it hard to attract good staff, then that's going to make it even harder for you to get positive reviews and PR for your product or service.
So I think that people think that PR is just for generating business leads, and of course that's certainly an element of it. But why wouldn't you want to use it to attract your new staff, or to keep your existing staff? That is so important.
So they're proud to be there.
They're proud to be there. They want to be working with a successful company. It's also attracting investors, or that building authority. It's good for your website traffic. It helps enter new markets, for example. If you've got credibility in one element, in one sector, then you can transfer that over in some instances. And of course, it protects business in times of challenge. And we see that, the companies that keep putting out positive messages are the ones that stay in your memory. That's it's just building that trust. So super important for lots of reasons, not just for lead generation.
I think it's more of supporting the lead generation and the sales process rather than necessarily attracting, because a lot of, well, particularly with the third party PR where you're being written about by a journalist, I mean, they often won't even put in your website, like they just will quote your name and your company, don't they? So they do.
But that actually isn't, I mean, clearly, there are people that say, oh, what we always want is websites and backlinks, and that's super important. But actually, if somebody mentioned your company name and said how great you were, even if they hadn't put your website in, I mean, you can go and have a look it up.
Google.
It's not hard. So
Exactly.
you kind of get that sort of like that additional sort of like bounce from that, like the referral
Yeah.
from. So still
Yeah.
good, all good.
Exactly. Yeah. So what are some of the mistakes that people make in PR then, Amanda?
Well, Una, you touched on one a little earlier, actually, not doing anything, not saying anything. So, I mean,
Yeah.
the thing is, you're doing PR anyway, aren't you? Because you're doing your LinkedIn Live, you've got your podcast, you've got your
And
network,
actually,
you've
I
got
do
your
appear on other
community.
people's podcasts, which is one
Yeah.
PR method as
And
well.
and so I think, it's just to think about PR as just doing stuff in the media isn't necessarily the whole picture. I mean, because you're maybe looking at your own social channels, and so not doing anything at all is the number one big mistake. I get people coming to me go, they're completely in stealth mode, and they say, oh, it's just so rotten. My competitor has got this amazing coverage, or they're getting really well known, or they've been asked to do some speaker gigs. Why isn't that happening to us? And it's like, well, if you're not telling anybody that you're doing that stuff, or that you could do a speaker gig, or that,
Yeah.
then they're not going to know. So that would be my number one tip as to what to do. Just do something, do anything.
Yeah.
Just get that, get that message out there. It could be on your own channels, but preferably, on someone else's. So that is a real mistake. And other things that people do are maybe they don't keep up with what's going on in their industry. They're not reading their trade magazines. They're not finding out, what other people are doing. They're not being clear on their message, maybe.
Yeah.
There's people with
Big
a
one.
really woolly message, and you're not actually entirely sure what they do anyway. Another one that is an easy one, an easy quick win, is getting those case studies and testimonials, because that's what we've been talking about, isn't it? What other people say about you. Well, we've all got some great customers, we've got some great clients, so actually ask them what it is. I do a bit of a case study on what it is that they, what did they like about you, what do they like most about working with you, what would they say to other people to encourage them to get off the fence, that sort of thing. They work super well to have on your website or your social media. And so not going in for awards, that's an opportunity missed. But actually, do you know what? The other thing that I think that people forget about is that PR is very much two-way. So we see it all the time, don't we? People are just like putting out messages, and like pushing their side of things. But the whole thing about PR is that it is an understanding of your audience as well. So it's very much two-way. So I think that one of the things that people can do, and they maybe don't do enough, is to do some listening. Actually find out what their customers want, find out what their sector is doing, because that kind of influences everything, doesn't it, about what it is that you're doing yourself. So listening, super important as well.
Yeah, I think that is a really important one. And actually, it goes back, doesn't it, to the whole thing around messaging, because if you're not clear on your messaging, it's probably because you don't know your customers well enough. So if you actually do survey them, in fact, even the process of gathering testimonials and information for case studies is also going to really educate you. And particularly, I think a really powerful question to ask is, well, why did you decide to work with us? For two reasons. One, what was it that prompted, like, what was the problem? What was the pain that they were solving? And secondly, why us instead of somebody else? So when people can answer those questions, and that gives you some great information that you can be building into your messaging, because other people will have the same problems. And even finding out, well, what else had you tried? Like, that's another great case study question, because then people go, yeah, I've been trying those things too, but they didn't work. Oh, I really should talk to this company. So absolutely. So
So that
I think
is really, and actually, I mean, a lot of people talk about, those long tail inquiries, don't they, on websites when you're looking at website information. But that is it. That's what people are searching for. And if they're putting in a long question, or then that they've actually really got that problem and are really looking to put out those buying signals. So if you can harness that, that's just absolute gold. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's true. And actually, so I have at the moment I have a kind of free consult call that people can do, and I get them to fill in a few questions, just to help me think, help them think as well, and get them clear on stuff, before we speak. And it's really interesting, because the people who don't write a lot, they often aren't the ones who convert, but the people who do write a lot, they obviously are feeling a lot more, and they're kind of like, oh, here's my opportunity to get it out. That they obviously have.
I mean,
more
going on
say,
what Stephen said, do you have to do it all yourself? I mean, it's not everyone's thing, is it?
No.
I mean, I work with, I work with a lot of manufacturers who just want to be manufacturing. They don't want to be writing about it. And that's why we bring in other people into our ecosystem, isn't it? Because you're going to want to play to people's strengths, as you were saying about flow, Una. It is, it might not be your thing to do lots of writing, but it might be somebody else's. It's not my thing to work a CNC machine, but I know people that can do that really brilliantly, and that's they do their thing and I do mine. Yeah.
Amanda, question for you. Can you hear me? Is a background noise gone? Is it okay?
There's no background noise, but yeah, if you want to ask your question.
The only thing I can hear is the seagulls outside. I'm not by the sea. It's just they're very noisy this morning. If this is your first foray into PR, and you want to make something of an impact, but you're not sure about the best way to start, what would you say would be the best way to kick off, your journey with PR that's going to have something of an impact, but isn't going to be too all-consuming and freak people out?
Well, I hope nobody's freaked out by it. But it can be time consuming, and I think I hear a lot of people go, oh, PR is free, and basically it's only free if you don't value your own time. So that's the bottom rule on that one. But when you talk about PR, there are four main strands of PR that we talk about now, and they have an acronym PESO, PESO. So if I just went quickly through those, and then I'll come back to your question then, Stephen. So we have P is paid, so that is maybe advertorials, so that you can buy. You can pay money to appear in places. There is earned PR. Now that is the one that everyone aspires to. That's where somebody else is saying something great about you, or you've won an award, or that so this doesn't come easily, but that is probably the most powerful. And then we've got shareable content. So that could be sharing on your own social media, where people will send that out to other people, or it could be creating maybe an infographic or a video, something that people want to share. And then you've got owned. So that is what you put on your own channels, which is, at what Una was referring to about the writing. So your website content, your own blog, maybe your own podcast channel, for example. So we have those four types, and they do have different strengths. And probably the least scary of those is putting some content on your website about something that you've done, so on your own channels, and then sharing that. And that is a nice quick win, because you will get that to a wider audience. And that's what you want, isn't it? Big tick, done some PR. So obviously the one that we really want is the earned PR, but the others are equally, are important as well. So yes, does that help, Stephen? So that would be
Yes.
the least scary of them all, I think. So that's and
Thanks, Linda.
it's all within your control as well, because I think people do worry about what's going to be said about me. Is this going to be misinterpreted? And sticking your head above the parapet is scary the first time you do it, indeed. But I think definitely on your own platforms, you've got control over what you say. So yeah.
Thank you.
I think I was just going to say, I remember back in my PR days, we used to do media training with our clients so that they were prepared before they did interviews, particularly live interviews. So I think, work with your PR consultant, whether that's Amanda or somebody else. If you're worried about those kinds of things, you can do that media training to make sure that you know what to say, what not to say, how to correct yourself if you fluff things up. All those kinds of things. Like particularly if something's going to be edited, is really easy to make it so that they can't publish it. So yeah.
But you're probably right. I mean, maybe some people do think that actually PR is there you are in a studio in front of a reporter who's grilling you, and almost always it's not.
Exactly. I mean, it's very rare that those kinds of things happen, and that's usually with large corporates that have done something wrong, and so your average SME business owner does not fall into that category, do they?
No, absolutely not. But I mean, I think another thing that people worry about is, do they have a story? They think, everyone else has got news stories, but I haven't.
Yeah.
And so I think what we've got is, how to find a hook. Really, that's what would be the newsworthy bit on this. And so again, we've got lots of acronyms in our world, and I thought it might be useful to share a little acronym on how to find a newsworthy story. Would that be of interest, do you think?
Definitely, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So a bit of a task. Everyone can go away and think about their stories. So the acronym is truth. So truth. So the first one is it topical or timely? So that could be something attached to an awareness day, or it could be something attached to an event that's happening, or something that's happened recently in your organization. So maybe you've won some great new business or something like that. But is it topical or timely? And then the R stands for, is it relevant? So is this actually going to be of any interest to the people that I am telling it to? And one of the great ways to do that is to ask yourself, so what? Who cares? Because if nobody is interested, then that isn't a news story. That's and again on that, is it relevant? It's asking your customers, would that be of interest to you? Is that of any interest? So the next letter is U for unusual. I mean, people talk about things being unique, but they're almost never unique. But yeah, is this unusual? Is this something that would be of interest? And then we've got T for is there an angle to it, like trouble or triumph over tragedy, that sort of thing. And then the final one is, where's the human interest? Have we got a person involved in this? Can we have somebody speaking? But where's the human interest? So that would be my tips on that one. And then of course we have ask one of your friends. Would this be of interest? That would do the trick.
Absolutely. I think that's really good. The I think that human part of it is so important, because I think, as business owners, we can all really fall in love with our products and our services, and then we can end up, it's well, we have to think about who is it that actually is going to be reading, watching, listening. That we need to make sure that we're putting them front and center. And actually, any journalist worth their salt, they're always going to be thinking about, are my readers, are my listeners, do they care about this? Why would they care about this? And if they wouldn't, then they're not going to publish it at all. So yes, I think that's really great. Well, thank you so much for those tips, Amanda. Any final questions or thoughts, Stephen?
No, Amanda, you've been absolutely fantastic. Thank you. You've shone a light for me, because I don't do much PR. So this is great. I'm going to take advantage of that peso one as well. That's great. Peso. Great.
Good.
Excellent. So yeah, I think there's some great tips there. I think there's something that we can all benefit from, and we can all start doing it. We can start in a small way, start getting some results, and then just make sure that get appropriate help when needed. So, and I think it's one of those things, isn't it, that if you have if you're in a position, if your business is in a position where you're going to be able to leverage PR, and I think there's a few different ways that you can do that. So for instance, like Stephen, with you and your clients, one of the things that you could be doing is, when you're approaching new people, you could be sending them Maxine will come to your question in a moment. Marianne, beg your pardon, will come to your question in a moment. You can be sending that out to people in advance of calling them, or following a call, to kind of show credibility and things like that. I know, Amanda, in previous conversations, you've talked about how your clients, they will often have their salespeople with physical copies of things to hand out to, in client meetings or prospect meetings. So, it's a good way of building, I guess, assets that can be used again and again and again in your company. So
Absolutely.
Very powerful in that way.
Yeah.
So just got a question here from Marianne. How do we reach people who might be interested in the content other than hashtags?
It's finding where they are, actually, Marianne. It's it's where do they hang out, and and go and hang out there too. So whatever they read, whatever their chosen media is, definitely go there, listen to what other people are doing, listen to what their questions are, and actually try and engage with that. Very much so. Yeah.
Right.
And actually, that listening side, you might want to set up maybe a Google alert for something, so that you're actually getting those messages just when they're happening. That works really well.
Yeah, interesting. And then the other thing, of course, as well, is there's some, Marianne's just saying, like, groups and pages. What Amanda's talking about, yes, you can certainly look at groups and pages for your relevant audience. But Amanda's talking about setting up a Google alert that would actually send you email alerts when a specific phrase, a word or phrase that you've put in shows up on the internet. So like, I know I have a Google alert set up for my name. There is a solicitor with my name in Kerry, and so I sometimes get alerts about the stuff she does. She plays football. So I sometimes get those popping into my kind of going, oh, have I been covered on something? Oh no, it's the football player again. Okay, well, good for you. But yeah, you can do that for industry topics, things that you want to be talking about. So just try them out and see, and you may well find that you need to narrow them down. So you might start off with a broad topic, and if you get flooded, you're like, okay, hang on, let me read these things. What else is being used that would be more specific to what I'm looking for? Yeah, and do that. And actually, if the phrases you're putting in aren't getting covered, then you need to go back to the drawing board and see what is getting covered that you can tap into. It's often easier, isn't it, to kind of tap into conversations that are already happening, rather than trying to create something. I mean, you want a new angle on things, and new information, stories, and those hooks, but it's easy to kind of join the flow that's already happening, isn't it, Amanda?
Absolutely, and that's where that, whether your story is topical and timely, you need to hop in there, and have your opinion. And we've all got opinions on things. Absolutely, share your opinion, and that will make all the difference. Yeah,
fantastic. Excuse me, Amanda. Where can people find out more about you?
They can hop onto tigerfishpr.co.uk, and in fact, there is a download on there on 5 ways to get media coverage for your business now. So if they want to have a look at that, that gives them lots of top tips and some super useful information to get them started.
Brilliant. Well, Marianne, thank you very much, and I would like to thank you as well. So I think oh, excuse me. There's been some great tips and insights here today. So thank you very much for joining us, Amanda. Lovely to see you again. Thanks again, Stephen. And anyone who's just joining us now, do make sure to go back and watch from the beginning. Amanda shared some great stuff then as well. So we'll be back here with Jess again next week. So join us same time next week. Bye for now.
Bye, Amanda. Bye, Una.
Bye.